Good afternoon, YouTube. It's Kev here from The Kev Baker Show. Hope you're all doing well. And remember, I'll be on from 10 p.m. in the UK this evening. That's 5 p.m. on the East Coast, 2 p.m. on the West Coast on The Kev Baker Show, over on TFRlive.com. I've got my good friend Ben Emlyn Jones joining myself and Johnny tonight. We'll be getting into the Nazca mummies amongst a lot of other things for the 2 hours we are on. But today, I want to bring you this story here. It's a story about a massive black hole discovered near the heart of the Milky Way, and why I've got supermassive problems when it comes to any kind of black hole anywhere in space. But let's stick with this first, because I want to report what the mainstream scientists are reporting to us. And it says, interestingly enough, that astronomers find evidence of enormous black hole 100,000 times more massive than our own sun in a gas cloud near the galaxy's centre. So it goes on to say here that an enormous black hole 100,000 times more massive than the sun has been found hiding in a toxic gas cloud wafting around near the centre of the Milky Way. And that toxic gas cloud will become important as we move on. And it says here that if the discovery is confirmed, and that's the same with every other alleged theoretical black hole out there, if any of them are ever confirmed, it should say, the invisible behemoth will rank as the second largest black hole ever seen in the Milky Way, after the supermassive black hole known as Sagittarius A that is allegedly, I'm adding that in there, anchored at the centre of the Milky Way. Now this comes from astronomers in Japan after they found evidence of the new object when they turned a powerful telescope in the Atacama Desert in Chile towards the gas cloud in hopes of understanding the strange movement of its gases. Now, unlike those that make up other interstellar clouds, the gases in this cloud, including hydrogen cyanide and carbon monoxide, move at wildly different speeds. Observations from the ALMA telescope in Chile showed that molecules in the elliptical cloud, which is 200 light years from the centre of the Milky Way, which in cosmic terms is absolutely nothing, and 150 trillion kilometres wide. How you're even meant to wrap your head around that kind of distance is beyond me. And they were being pulled around by immense gravitational forces. Something else I've got a problem with, but we'll get into that in a moment. And the most likely cause, according to computer models, was a black hole no more than 1.4 trillion kilometres across. The scientists' suspicion that a black hole lay in the midst of the gas cloud received a boost when further observations picked up radio waves indicative of a black hole coming from the centre of the cloud, said Tomoharu Oka, an astronomer at the Keio University in Tokyo. Quote, "This is the first detection of an immediate black hole candidate in the Milky Way galaxy." Now then, these black holes, they're alleged to tear apart all matter, right? Even drawing in light. And yet, all that matter, no matter how supermassive that these black holes occupy, it's said that all that matter occupies absolutely no volume whatsoever. And they come up with terms like infinite density and antimatter explosions. Yet none of this, absolutely none of this, be it antimatter explosions, they can't even define infinitive density, and they certainly can't reproduce it. And again, all of this matter, no matter how kind of dense that becomes, it occupies no volume whatsoever, and yet at the same time has that gravitational pull that sucks in everything else around it. And again, all of this highly, highly theoretical, because they're all kind of shrouded in this gas cloud. And how convenient is that? And with no light even able to escape this immense gravitational field caused by infinite density, which is contained within no volume whatsoever, then that conveniently makes them black holes. This year, astronomers are getting excited because they may finally have the first picture of a black hole. And this comes here from a Ron Cowan on New Scientist, and it says, Westford, Massachusetts, for the monster at the Milky Way's heart, it's a wrap. After completing 5 nights of observations, today astronomers may have finally captured the first ever image of the famous gravitational sinkhole known as a black hole. And again, this is of Sagittarius A, right at the centre of our own galaxy. And more precisely, the hoped-for portrait is of a mysterious region that surrounds the black hole, called the event horizon. This is the boundary beyond which nothing, not even light, can escape the object's gargantuan gasp. As the final observing run ended at, interesting time, 11:22 Eastern Time, member Vincent Fish sat confidently in his office at the MIT Haystack Observatory in Westford, Massachusetts. For the past week, Fish had been on call 24/7, sleeping fitfully with his cell phone next to him, the ringer set aloud. And as the last data arrived at project observatories, he watched celebratory comments come pouring in on a special chat line for radio astronomers and engineers. One noted he was about to open a bottle of 50-year-old scotch. Another was listening to the triumphant chords of Bohemian Rhapsody. But don't get too excited, folks, right? Because when you look in further to this, what they're saying is they might just have a giant blob. It'll literally just be a gap in the data. It isn't going to show anything, and it certainly isn't going to prove anything for me. A New Scientist, we've covered this on the Kev Baker show not so long ago. It says here, now referring to the actual images that have been taken of the Milky Way black hole, this comes from the 12th of July. You can't get the whole actual article on here. You have to pay for a subscription or buy the actual paper magazine. And I know I'm a dinosaur. I prefer to buy the paper magazine. I like to have it in my hands and read it. So I have read the whole thing. And it says here, when is a black hole not a black hole? Well, when it's a boson star. Now, we were interested at the time, before I get into any of that, about the fact that there were scientists out there now starting to talk about the realistic possibility that when they receive this picture, it's not going to be what they expect. And for years, they've gone down this road of black holes, and this all ties in with the Einstein-Newton kind of model of the universe. And if you've ever listened to myself and Anthony Patch over on the Kev Baker show, we are very big proponents of something called the electric universe. And the best source on all of that material has to be Thunderbolts Project. You can find them at thunderbolts.info. And I'll be showing you an article from them in just a moment. But they say that space is an empty vacuum. Well, I would contest that it's a very active place indeed, and it's an electromagnetic universe. We see pockets of magnetism absolutely everywhere throughout space. And you can't have magnetic fields without causing electrical currents. And space, under the electrical universe model, is a highly, highly active electrical plasma, or an electrically active plasma. Now, you won't hear mainstream scientists like Hawkins and the black hole crowd, or anyone from this kind of crew here, talking about electrical universe. The thing with the electrical universe is, when I was talking here about none of this being able to be reproduced in a laboratory, well, the thing is, when it comes to the electrical universe, you can reproduce the effects seen in space with plasma, charged particles, and all the things that go with that electrically active plasma model, right down to the formations of stars, galaxies, and even black holes. Yes, that's right, black holes. So, again, we have the New Scientist here questioning whether it is black holes or not. And it says here a boson star. Now, a boson star has never been seen either. It's just as highly theoretical as the good old friend, the black hole itself. And what's encouraging for me is just the mere fact that we've got mainstream academic scientists who are actually starting to open their minds. That's right, take the blinkers off, step back from the microscope that they've got their eyes down and see the bigger picture, or at least open their mind to something else out there. And I was referring to the Thunderbolts project. This is their website here. They do such great work on the electric universe. Can't recommend them highly enough. And if we come to this article here from 2009, it's supermassive problems with black holes. And if we come further down here now, they say that we detect black holes by X-ray and gamma ray emissions, okay? But it says here that it must be asked whether there is a consistent way to explain what we see in space, along with ways to demonstrate those explanations in the laboratory. Now, X-rays and gamma rays in space are not created in gravity fields. Laboratory experiments most easily produce them by accelerating charged particles through an electrical field. Now then, if we think about that then, if we go with the electrical model of the universe, like I was saying, you've got all this plasma, electrically charged plasma, you've got particles travelling along lines of force called Birkeland currents, and this can give rise to X-rays and gamma rays being given off, especially when you get this kind of thing occurring where there's kind of a dusty cloud. Remember the clouds we were talking about earlier on that are always seen shrouding these mysterious black holes? Well, that dust, that still stands. But instead of thinking about a vacuum and nothing else there, think of that dust with all that plasma, those charged particles moving through it. And when you get charged particles moving through a magnetic field, what happens? You get X-rays and gamma rays given off. Exactly the same as when we look at places like CERN. They have something called the cloud experiment, and that utilizes these synchrotron energies that are produced when you travel particles around near the speed of light through magnetic fields. It gives off naturally X-rays and gamma rays, the same things that we are said are symptomatic and indicative of black holes. You see, there is another model out there that fits this. And if we come even further down into this, there is no experimental evidence that matter can be compressed at infinite density. How stars form supernova, it's not even clear. Supernovae do not form spherical shells when they explode. Yet this is one of the characteristics that they say is of a black hole. And they say it's stars exploding that cause these black holes. To go back to the article, they say they form a glowing bipolar plasma formations like an hourglass. No one knows what triggers a black hole to suddenly gobble up matter in its accretion disk within a few months. As we have noted in the past, Hans Alfvén identified the exploding double layer as a new class of celestial object. It is double layers in space plasmas that form most of the unusual structures we see. Stellar explosions, jets, rings, and glowing clouds. These are all examples of electricity flowing through dusty plasma confined within Birkeland currents that stretch across light years. Remember how many light years across that supermassive black hole was? And then we have something called compression zones, also known as Z-pinches in plasma filaments. And they form plasmoids that become the stars and galaxies. Electricity is responsible for the birth of stars, and when the current density gets too high, the double layers in the circuit catastrophically release their energy and appear as, wait for it, gamma ray bursts or X-rays or flares of ultraviolet light. So there's why I have supermassive problems with this new discovery here at the edge or at the centre of the actual Milky Way. So it's up to you what you think out there, but do you trust mainstream scientists on something that they cannot reproduce in a laboratory and something that they still haven't actually proven? Every time you hear black hole, add theoretical. You have to add theoretical because they've never been proven. Yet they talk about them as if they've been existing and they've proven them years ago. No, they've theorized about them. And as we've just demonstrated there, thanks to this article here from 2009 from Stephen Smith, there are other explanations for what we see around these alleged black holes. Not only that, they can be reproduced within the laboratory. So the supermassive problem with the whole model of the universe is the fact that they are not open, or they are not playing with the electrical model, the electrical magnetic model of the universe. So thanks for listening to me, folks. That's my supermassive problem for the day off my chest. Remember to join me tonight over on the Kev Baker Show, where I'll be joined by Ben Emlyn-Jones, 10 p.m. in the UK, and he's the host of Hipanwo Radio. Check him out. Later, YouTube. Towards the gas cloud in hopes of understanding the strange movement of its gases. Now, unlike those that make up other interstellar clouds, the gases in this cloud, including hydrogen cyanide and carbon monoxide, move at wildly different speeds. Observations from the ALMA telescope in Chile showed that molecules in the elliptical cloud, which is 200 light years from the centre, if any of them are ever confirmed, it should say, the invisible behemoth will rank as the second largest black hole ever seen in the Milky Way after the supermassive black hole known as Sagittarius A that is allegedly, I'm adding that in there, anchored at the centre of the Milky Way. Now, this comes from astronomers in Japan after they found evidence of the new object when they turned a powerful telescope in the Atacama Desert in Chile. I'll bring you this story here. It's a story about a massive black hole discovered near the heart of the Milky Way, and why I've got supermassive problems when it comes to any kind of black hole anywhere in space. But let's stick with this first, because I want to report what the mainstream scientists are reporting to us. And it says, interestingly enough, that astronomers find evidence of enormous black hole 100,000 times more massive than our own sun. Good afternoon, YouTube. It's Kev here from the Kev Baker Show. Hope you're all doing well. And remember, I'll be on from 10 p.m. in the UK this evening. That's 5 p.m. on the East Coast, 2 p.m. on the West Coast on the Kev Baker Show. Over on tfrlive.com. I've got my good friend Ben Emlyn-Jones joining myself and Johnny tonight. We'll be getting into the Nazca mummies amongst a lot of other things for the 2 hours we are on. But today, I want to be in a gas cloud near the galaxy's centre. So it goes on to say here that an enormous black hole, 100,000 times more massive than the sun, has been found hiding in a toxic gas cloud wafting around near the centre of the Milky Way. And that toxic gas cloud will become important as we move on. And it says here that if the discovery is confirmed, and that's the same with every other alleged theoretical black hole out there,